Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Assalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. What is it that drives mankind to excel? Is it a set of abilities or talents mankind may possess? People do have different abilities, potentials, and aptitudes in different levels, of course, some more than the others. For example, while most people might be able to drive on the street and highways, there are those few who have special talent in driving race cars. While everyone might be able to draw pictures, you have those with such talents to draw or paint masterpieces. Or you see a man walking or riding a bicycle on a tiny rope with another person standing on his shoulder in a show. Not everyone can do these. Same with the world of science and discoveries made by men. These are all human talents that have surfaced. These aptitudes and talents are often in certain people, and given the opportunity, they can surface, but at different levels. These are signs of capabilities God has given to mankind, which you routinely hear about in the news. Now, the question may be raised, which of these talents or abilities is the most valuable one? So that we pay more attention to it and actually make it the central aspect or central force that drives or controls all other abilities. We're not saying abandon all other abilities. We're saying put the most valuable, most fundamental one at the center. One that overshadows all others. So what is it? Divine faiths, especially Islam, say this most valuable and most fundamental ability that must be the central force within mankind is khashyatullah, reverence of God, or a higher form of God consciousness that results from knowledge, which allows man to put the brakes on to protect himself and others while keeping his duty to God. All as a result of knowledge. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. Indeed, only those servants with knowledge have reverence toward God. The term khashya is translated in almost all translations as fear, but it really means reverence, devotion, veneration, or simply a higher form of God consciousness. So, how does reverence of God gained through knowledge impact one's other abilities and talents, hence man's life? It is exactly this reverence, this God consciousness that overshadows everything we do. If you are an important judge, it influences your ability to judge. So you judge fairly and without taking bribes or playing political games. If you are an athlete with great athletic talent, it will keep you honest and fair-minded, so you don't resort to doping or an injection to help you win. In other words, you play fair, so you win honestly. If you are a talented artist with great paintings, it keeps you from painting something that is provocative and indecent. If you're a student, it will prevent you from cheating because you will realize cheating is a form of dishonesty, which results in a grade you did not earn. If you're a scientist, you do not invent or develop something that could be destructive and harmful to mankind. And the list goes on. No matter what abilities or talents you may possess, this khashya, divine reverence, or God consciousness becomes a dominant factor, or a prevailing element in your decision making. A positive interference, if you will, that keeps you from deception, deviation, and lapse, on the condition this khashya, reverence, is gained through knowledge, not something you just heard or inherited or imitated from others. إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء, through knowledge, not through biases. Otherwise, many of those who, for example, assassinated great Muslim leaders in early Islamic era were Muslims themselves, and seemingly devout ones. Some of them even thought they were serving God by these killings. There are many people who do think or presume what they are doing is right. As the Quran says in chapter 18, قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا, Say, shall we inform you of the greatest losers by their deeds, of course. الَّذِينَ ذَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا. They are those whose effort is wasted, lost in this life, while they thought they were doing good work. It's not like everybody does bad things on purpose. Many just go on thinking and doing it, thinking they're doing good work. Some people, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. When they are told not to commit corruption in the land, they reply, we are only reformers, only bring peace, as translated by some. أَلَا أَنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They certainly are corrupt, but do not realize it. Here, in this verse, لَا يَشْعُرُونَ means they do not realize it, they do not perceive it. Why? Because their understanding is not based on knowledge. Their God consciousness is not out of knowledge, rather out of biases, imitations, and influence of others, and their environment, or other things which is a topic of another lecture. Here you have Islam, which was born in the age of ignorance, Jahiliyyah, to pagans. Yet, it talks about knowledge and encourages gaining knowledge, hence produces the great Islamic civilization unparalleled in that time. From the very start, Islam said, عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ, taught the human what he did not know. And God considers what he taught his own messenger as his greatest favor. وَعَلَّمَكَ مَا لَمْ تَكُنْ تَعْلَمْ وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. He has taught you what you did not know. Certainly, God's favor to you has been great. Or the prophet's supplication per God's instruction. قال ربي زدني علما. قال رب زدني علما. Say, my Lord, increase my knowledge. Why so much emphasis on learning and knowledge? Because all man's weaknesses, such as arrogance and greed, start out with ignorance. And the only way to eliminate this root cause is to gain knowledge. Back to central force. Man's desire and nafs is always lurking, lie in wait for our weakest moment in order to deceive us in whatever we do, whatever ability we have, or whatever talent we put to work. If you are in a position of power and are not God conscious, then the environment will get to you, one way or another. then you end up abusing your power, as we see many rulers do. If you are researching something, if you don't have the reverence of God, you may be swayed by others and end up losing your objectivity. If you are a public official, you may end up playing favorites. At any case, if the spirit of reverence for God is revived in man through knowledge, then he will develop God consciousness in everything he does. Hence, this will become the central force in him, a force behind everything he does. Other abilities and talents may flourish, but under the influence of this force. Hence, one will be interested in others' goodwill. He will be a charitable and well-wishing person. Such person will not employ lies, cheating, and deception, not even to his enemies. This person will be first of all honest with himself and see the reality for what it is. The Quran says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Indeed, he who purifies it succeeded. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And indeed, he who buries it with corruption has failed. What is meant by dassaha in this verse? The Quran uses this word to mean bury or hide, as we see in another verse, أَمْ يَدُسُّهُ فِي التُّرَابِ, or bury it in dust. So then, when the Quran says man dassaha, it means one who is not his true self. He deceives himself. He's not honest with himself, as he hides the truth from himself. Therefore, he leads himself astray, sometimes through an impulse. As such, he will try to justify his actions through a biased opinion or belief. As a result comes his failure. He fails. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And indeed, he who buries it with corruption has failed. So the first thing one must do is to be honest, clear, open and candid with himself. Do not follow suspicion and guesswork. Rather, look for rational reasoning. Replace opinion and guesswork with knowledge. For example, some people think, since they have a goal, they can use any means to reach their goal at the expense of hurting others, slandering others, stepping on others. In the Quran, we have the story of two sons of Adam who both sacrificed, but the sacrifice of one was accepted, not the other. Hence, he got jealous and told his brother, I will kill you. The one whose sacrifice was accepted replied, I will not stretch my hand to preemptively kill you. Indeed, I fear Allah. Defend, of course, one can always defend, but to take action preemptively, just because your intention is to kill me, I would never do that. The brother who was jealous, his desire to kill his brother took over and finally killed him. Why did the other brother not defend himself? The commentators have said it was because he was asleep. Then the Quran says, on that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone killed a person, unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he killed the whole mankind. The whole mankind means it is that serious. Allah describes this story to elevate the good brother's response and innocence. He was a God-conscious man. And when the jealous brother told him he was going to kill him, he said, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. قَالَ إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. He said, Indeed, Allah accepts from those who are God conscious. Aren't these teachings amazing? Imagine these teachings came at a time when pagans used to kill each other over trivial things, steal women and children and sell them in slave markets. Then come these verses and transform the most backward society in that time. One can't help but to admit these are words of God. If this is not miracle, what is it? So once one keeps the reverence of God, khashyatullah, out of knowledge, he has the most divine of all talents and abilities, that which controls everything in his life. You're a good businessman, go for it and make the best deals, but in halal permitted way, in honest way. It keeps you in check. You are a good artist, painter or photographer, go for it, but portray things in a halal way, not a provocative manner, leading the society to indecencies. Keeps you in check. You are a great doctor or engineer or any professional. Deal justly with your clients and earn your pay honestly and produce things that are of good service to mankind, not destructive. Keeps you in check. In every field and branch, it is the controlling element. And it is for mankind's own benefit. It just needs to be drawn from knowledge, not biases and false beliefs. This is why faiths, especially Islam, have insisted on this central force so much. That is why you see someone like Yusuf alayhi salam, with all the beauty, when the minister's wife surrenders herself to him, what does he say? قُلْ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ, I seek refuge in Allah. You know, the guy, your husband, he's my master who has given me great home. Indeed, wrongdoers will not succeed. As a human with temptation, what controlled him? The central force or reverence of God, one which he had gained through knowledge. The Quran presents many scenes like this, demonstrating how this central force impacts man's life and elevates him from his animal instinctive level to his kamal, his complete humanity, by giving tarbiyah, training to mankind. We ask Allah to increase our knowledge and help us maintain and strengthen this central force and his reverence within us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.